is our manuscript reading that we do every Friday. Now we're going to be looking at this paper. Now, one of the key things you need to put into consideration whenever we are making this presentation is, first of all, okay, I think she sent a paper. Let me check that out just for a minute to be sure. That's it, just a minute. I'm trying to push it to my email, and so we can have that. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to slide through it here. All right. So this is the paper that we are going to be looking at: stress management interventions among healthcare workers using mindfulness, a systematic review. Now, what are the key things you need to look out for in this paper? Because I'm sure that if you're attending this manuscript reading, you have one or two reasons why you're here. One of the reasons why you're here is that probably you're here because you want to understand how to write research, or you want to understand what it takes to put a paper out there, and you want to understand some of the key things that are required for you to publish your paper. Now, essentially, when you look at we're going to look at this paper now. We're just going to run through this paper, then I'll come back to look at it. Now, the first thing, a manuscript, which is usually drafted from your publication or from your work, is going to have a clear title, right? So when you look at this now, this is a systematic review article, and it was published in this journal, Census Science, right? So this might be a peer-reviewed journal, because there are a lot of predatory journals out there. When I talk about predatory journals, journals that are malicious, and journals that might not really have that substantial evidence that you need, all right? So that's why it's actually titled S&S. And if you look at this now, you see that it's contained. Where's my cursor? You see that it contains the authors' names, right? Clearly listed here. And this is their department where, okay, you can't see my screen. Oh my God. Okay. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. Okay. All right. So I'm sure you can see that clearly and perfect now. Thank you for. All right. So I'm sure you can see my screen now. So when you look at this paper, you find out that it was published in Census Science in 2018, and this is the title of the article: Stress Management Interventions Among Healthcare Workers. All right. Now, when we scroll down of this article, now there are a couple of things we begin to find out. You find out that, it was published by how many authors? We've got about how many authors here? We've got this author, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right. And just give me a moment. I'm in a meeting. I'm going to call you back, please. Just give me 20 minutes. Okay, all right, then when you look at this, you see that this is the correspondence. So what do we mean by the correspondence? The correspondence is the person that is submitting the article, all right? The person that is submitting the article is usually the correspondence. So we have the correspondence in case of any time we need something as pertaining to this systematic review. We can just copy this woman's email here. Can just copy. Maybe I read this paper, there's something I want that I'm not seeing inside this paper. I will always email the correspondent. Please take note of all these things, because most times people just look at an article, they don't even know what those things means. Now, what this thing means here now is what? The publication history. That's what we call it. We call it the publication history. So this paper was submitted on the 18th of May, 2018. Some of you might not have been born academically. And it was accepted on the 31st of May, 2018, and it was published on June 2018. All right. And now We now move on. Some of the interesting things we can find in this manuscript here on stress management interventions among healthcare workers using mindfulness is that you realize that it contains an abstract. All right. So what we call this type of abstract is what? A structured abstract. What makes it a structured abstract is that we have the background bulleted, we've got the aim, we've got the methods, we've got the results, and conclusion. It's all in bullets, right? So it means that when you look at this now, you need to state a background, make a background statement somewhere here of what the reader intends to, see. And then the aim of this systematic review was to analyze how mindfulness courses can improve mental and physical well-being. And a literature search was conducted in May 2018. So they listed the databases where they did the search. The systematic reviews is very, very simple. It's one of the simplest type of research you can do because you can stay at the comfort of your home, you can be chatting with your friends, and you do a systematic review. You select papers, unlike other type of original research articles that requires you to go into the field, start interviewing people, and doing all sort of things. All right. Now you see, 58 articles met the inclusion criteria. So 58 articles were included in the study. 13 of them were clinical trials and all that. So you get to know about all these details when you start taking up our systematic review full course sessions and all that. All right. So this article had a conclusion. And also there's keywords in the abstract. Now, why do we need these keywords? The essence of these keywords is that if you're a programmer, there's something we call SEO. All right. So what do we call SEO? Search engine optimization. So that whenever you're searching for anything, these keywords are going to be very, 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 very important for you in searching for some of the information that you want to get from the article. Okay. And now when we look at this, we find out that the introduction, they started by explaining some some of the terms as relates to mindfulness, some of the mental related terminologies, and they used what we call the numbering citation style. 1, 2, 3. You've got 5. We might not really want to know what in details the authors were talking about, but all we need to see here is that they pulled up their introduction. But what are some of the things? This introduction is quite very short. This could be just how many words we've got here. Okay. And now when we move on, we find out that they used what we call the Prisma flowchart, the Prisma statement. What is the Prisma? I can just come online here and search Prisma statement. All right, so what the Prisma means, preferred reporting items for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. So what they try to say is that they use the Prisma statement in conducting this particular research. That was what the authors used, and it was clearly stated in the paper. Where is the paper? Okay. Thank you for the paper. The paper don't lose. Okay, let me look for it here. Try and download it again. Okay, this is the paper. All right, so now they use the Prisma statement. So what do you mean by the Prisma statement? Being a systematic review, they reported about relevant, how the studies were selected. They talked about the data extraction, interventions. All these things were noted in this mindfulness behavioral paper, and the results were quite clear. So when we look at the domains of this paper, you see that the outcomes were stated, and also I think something missing here is that the method of data analysis was not really stated. So I think we might be suspecting that this journal might have been a predatory journal. Okay, so and what do I mean by the method of data analysis? When you go to the Prisma checklist here, let me just look for 2021. Let me just check. Okay, the one by page at all. Okay, let me just check the 27 items. All right, so I'm going to get it as a PDF. Now, when you look at this checklist here, in the methods, eligibility is there, information sources is there, search strategy, search process here, data collection. We've got data items, risk of bias, effect measures, synthesis method, which is data analysis. Okay, but if you look at all these items, right, you see that the authors here might have actually said what they use, but they didn't really do what? They didn't use that item. They didn't follow the item what? Properly. It was not what? It was not properly followed. All right. That was why when we come to the methods, we don't see how they did the synthesis. We're just talking about the scales, for outcomes and all that, how they were going to report it. But it's more important for it to be well structured. And again, we talked about the result. They talk about the results. You see that the result is here, where they show how the flow chart was performed. And what do we mean by the flow chart? There's something we call the Prisma flow diagram. It tries to tell you how studies were selected from several stages. Now, look at this Prisma flow diagram as trying to get married. Let's say you're a girl and you're 26 years old, or maybe you're whatever, and you're trying to select a group of men that you want to get married to. Now, this is just like database. Now, you've got some men in APSO, you've got some men in Gambia, you've got some men in maybe Canada, right? So at the end of the day, you screen their total of maybe 200 here, 100 here, 10 here. Then you remove duplicates, which means some of them were living in Canada, but they flew to Ghana. So those are going to be duplicates. So you remove your duplicates. Now we come to screening. So what do you mean by screening? Based on what your mom said, your mom is like, okay, please don't bring any dark black man home. All right. And those are some of your screening criteria. So maybe upon looking at them at the face, you don't even need to start checking what they have inside, which is eligible full text. So maybe he's dark, you take it out. So you record the reason. Oh, this person is short, he's too short, he's not my type of man. You put it out. So you record all the reasons when you're selecting papers in research. That's what the Prisma flow diagram illustrates. Then when you come to full text eligibility, this is where we do character check, right? So the guy is like, of all these girls, I want to screen. I want to check the ones that have good character. So you start by sending everybody 5K. Some of them are like, thanks. Some are like, thank you very much. Some are like, K, sin. Then you now say, okay, these ones that are thanks, K, they all have bad character. You screen them out, okay? Or maybe some of them, maybe you might have lived with them. You say, oh, you have lived experiences. You can say, okay, they've not got that quality. So that's what we call full text eligibility in systematic review. Okay, so you record that screening. So you state the reasons for exclusion here. Now this is where you now have the full the ones that now met your criteria for marriage. Okay, so now look at this part now as maybe usually in marital stuffs it must be one included study. Okay, because God created Adam and Eve and not Adam, Eve and Jessica. So but here in systematic review, the more number of studies you have, the more reliable the quality of evidence improves. Okay, so if you're answering a systematic review question with 7 studies and somebody else is answering that same question with 15 studies, then the person answering it with 15 study will have more quality of evidence. So just think about it as, people saying the more number of people you've dated, the more experience you have. so that's just what this Prisma Fruit diagram is all about. So it's just like recording the reasons how you're selecting papers. So if I ask you to go outside there and select 10 papers for me on prevalence of malaria, what are you going to do? You're going to select, you're going to stumble upon 1,000 papers the first time you put those keywords in. And after squeezing through titles, blah, 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 the ones that you check the titles, then the ones that you started reading inside of it, you saw that, it's not even a quantitative paper, whereas the eligibility criteria says otherwise. Systematic reviews are quite very easy. So the authors, I think we will have to give them credit for this part of it. And this is what we call the table, the data extraction table. All right. So this is the full text table of practices of included studies, and so this is where we state the authors here, the country, design, aim, all these things were mixed to give the paper some quality. All right. So remember, just like we said, you can always go to our channel at Sentinel Team. You see it online, so you can always watch our full course, well designed with description. The thumbnails actually helps to identify all the papers that are actually relevant for your own consumption. All right. So these are the data extraction clear from the paper, and so we could what next? Okay, now the researchers now go straight. Sorry, I just mistakenly flipped past here and it brought me down. So the next thing is the next thing is the findings in the paper. You can find out that the findings in the paper are all out here, and then the next thing is the what? That's what do we mean by the findings now is that's the proper synthesis. This is where we now answer the research question based on themes. All right, and this is where clear. There was a clear discussion of findings. So this is where they try to compare their findings with previous literature, and this actually gives the paper a plus. So if you're writing a review, you need to make sure there is well detailed definition. And also, I think a lot of things are missing in this paper. There is no argument of the methodological quality. We can't find the implications of the findings to research. Although maybe the researchers might have tried to argue that inside of the discussion, but there needs to be a clear heading. What is the implication now? What implications does these findings have to posit to future research or to clinicians or maybe policymakers? I think there happens to be missing here. And then also they talked about the strength, but I think if you look at this paper, some of the papers selected were published in English, but there is no strong evidence about the strengths. The researchers did not acknowledge the use of a risk of bias too. I don't think I found that inside of this. We found a risk of bias. A lot of things we are missing out in this paper, and conclusion straight to publication. So please, our readings will always stem from what? Peer-reviewed publications. And I think that was it. The authors didn't tell us about conflict of interest. Remember that if you attended our last manuscript, there needs to be some publication footage here. You need to tell us about your conflict of interest. Tell us if there was funding, because probably if there was funding, it can actually influence the validity of the findings. It can actually influence some sort of the reliability of the quality of evidence that the researchers wants to produce. So these things are quite pertinent, to establishing a very robust evidence for your research. I think we can actually applaud the researchers, but there are lots of limitations here, considering the fact that they stated that they used they followed the Prisma statement, but it doesn't really match what will happen to Miss Sonia. So I think if you have all this collective framework in mind, you can be publishing your first systematic review paper, and that's going to be very, very outstanding. So along this line, I think I'm going to hand over. Uzamaka, are you there now? Okay, so I'm going to be handing over to our publication lead team to exercise questions. Uzamaka, are you there? Dr. Uzo.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, completely. So I don't know, are there reservations you have with respect to the paper, or any further insights you might want to share with us quickly, so we can also entertain questions from others? Maybe we might also want to hear from your insight, other addendums.
I think most of the salient points have already been brought by you. Like, thank you very much for that. It's possible. Like I said, it's one of the simplest part of writing, like having a capstone or writing a research paper. So, and it can stem from anything, probably our diet or what we see around us and something like that. So, but one more thing that I also noticed the journal, the article that I picked there was in the abstract rather, or in the introduction, you said there was no study. I don't really know why that was not there. But I think a proper introduction in an SR should have statistics. Let me say stress. They can put together the number of I don't know, stress-led situations. I think I have to feel like that, or effects of stress. Probably in the country, so people were recorded, dead, or the risk of hypertension or something like that due to stress, and this is why they are bringing this particular study together. So I really appreciate it, and just a little reminder too that systematic review, because I was like, why systematic review? Why systematic review? Isn't narrative review okay? It's not just fine that you go into it, collect your data, make your findings, and publish your results. But that is not just okay. When you want to know the standing of a particular topic, let me say a maternal mortality, you want to know, okay, what's going on in maternal and child world. Systematic review on such topics would help you know what the current stand in any particular field is. It also helps to bridge the gap, the research gap over the years. It also helps with that. And then you don't really need to start looking for, because sometimes when you want to do a research, you see a lot of articles written already. It helps not to select same article at the same time, right? Avoiding duplicate, and more so it helps in general policy formation. Like all these health policies that they are being narrowed down from such research like this. So it's very, very important that it's being looked at, right? It's being done. So SR is actually the way forward, one of the way forward, and the way forward is now thank you.
Oh, that was very outstanding. That honestly, I did get a lot of insights from there, and also I learned a lot of things from there. I think what you're trying to stress, I think new thing is that while you're writing systematic review, you need to also expand, right? Essentially, that's what you're saying. You need to also try and expand and also provide a more better rationale in your introduction. You really made a very, very, very great point inside of there. And, because a lot of academics are in pain. What I mean by that is that if you can actually do this, if you can actually offer, high quality of evidence, if you have the ability to, if you have the ability to review, identify gaps in literature, and come up with a more suitable title, you can actually be very attractive. What we want now is that we need to be attractive in line of what we are proffering, the solutions we are giving. We need to make sure that the quality of evidence that we're trying to propose, we have enough statistical backing, we have enough backing before we actually embark on it. And just like Ozamaka has just said, fantastically, the introduction also, I think she acknowledged that there's quite some things that are also missing in the introduction. There is lack of data, considering that this work looks quantitative in terms of the paradigm. What I mean by paradigm is that the standpoint of this research question looks quantitative, but then when you look at the background, first line of code, the first line and second line and all that, you find out that there is no data. It lacks enough data. So it means that the researchers needs to conceptualize their write-up, okay? They need to conceptualize it with data, enough statistical data, so that it shows some support. That's also Kamakaji acknowledged. And why? And one of the striking things she said is why. We need to know why we want to do a systematic review. For example, a systematic review just like a secondary research, all right? So you're not going to do use of condoms by Reverend Fathers, a systematic review. What a research question that happens to be. Are you going to get, or you're trying to explore the sexual experiences of popes? That kind of question, the reason why I made this statement now is because I want your mind to be in what I'm saying. Because if I use another topic now, you forget what I'm saying immediately. And now, what that means now is that when you look at the nature of that question, what I just said now, you find out that, are you going to get primary papers for that? What is the implication of that study? Now, one of the things somebody might say is that this guy just said something stupid. How can you just want to do that type of thing? No, why can't I do it? Because there is no availability of primary studies to do that. So, but when you review this literature now, which is the introduction, because the introduction, when you're writing any work that has only introduction straight to methods, it means that the introduction is the literature. So when you review this literature now, you see that there is no data, there is no backing. Although we might not have really tried to understand the arguments, but what makes this topic challenging to perform? All right. So that now lands us to maybe the journal might try to compromise on quality. All right. So please, in as much as we are reviewing this type of papers, it means that we as individuals need to understand that some of these things are things that is happening. All right, so get started, start working on something. If you're somebody attending, start working on something, start improving yourself. There are a lot of academics in pain. If you can offer, or if you can become valuable to them, you'll be very, very financially stable, and you're going to be very outstanding. These things are just the truth. All right, so try to look at your intervention from the point of you want to reach out to people to bring these things, to render these solutions to them. Don't be weak. Try to be perfect. Okay? Yeah, it's possible. You can be perfect in all the areas of your life. At least you have to try your best. You need to try your best. So that is just it. And I really want to say a very big thank you to you guys, because you guys were very outstanding. So I don't know, are there questions or maybe conflicts with respect to how we looked at this paper? Are there conflicts or that might want to be resolved before we call it a day? So I can hang up on parents' call. Are there conflicts? Any question, any reservation? Do you have any special reservation that you feel like you want to express yourself? We are a very respectful set of people. We try to respect people. Okay, I think that went down well. That makes it was very self-explanatory. So please, we're going to send our how to publish a letter to an editor is already out. The video is going to be out on the community. Please share our group, our meeting. Please share our group link. Please share our group link. We want to have more than 1,000 people on the group. All right. Share it to your friends, share it to your exes, share it to your partners, share it. Okay, somebody has a question. Okay, come on. Come on with a question. Come on. And okay, any question? Okay, I'm going to go check the chat bot to see if we might have dropped some. So please share our meeting link. You guys should share so it can get to reach out to a lot of people, so that we can have so many people, in our next meeting, share this information to them, show ourselves, and that's it. So when you're coming for this church, when you're coming to this program tomorrow, make sure you're coming with at least 10 people. Come on, Samuel Podjo, what's your question?